All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Scandariato with Red and Knight Properties. And today we have a special guest coming at us from Canada, of all places, François Lanthier. And hopefully I didn't butcher that, but
no, good job.
doing my best here, trying to learn. And François, we're going to talk about his experience. He owns multifamily real estate and other real estate in both Canada and the United States. And we're going to talk about his experience investing in Canada. What are some of the differences between Canada and the US and which one he likes better? So we'll get into a nice conversation here and really excited. He also is the host of the Wine and Real Estate Podcast too, which you'll probably see me on in the near future as well. So really excited and looking forward to that. So François, great to have you and looking forward to hearing your story.
Yes, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. And I'm glad to be invited on an American podcast. I've done kind of the Canadian circuit, so why not expand? And my real estate is going in the same direction, so it's great. So I guess you want to know about how I got started, or?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, so Canada, just like the USA, I'm sure, being a dad with two kids and my wife, like just one income is not enough now to pay bills. Even two working parents is not enough. The cost of living has gone up so much in Canada that my wife and I were looking for a solution to supplement our income. And we thought about real estate investing. And I don't know if you keep an eye on the Canadian market, but things have appreciated enormously in the past few years. Some places, properties tripled in value in like 2 years. So it's just insane. So that's kind of why we began with just like one small condo. And then we got into duplexes, triplexes, fourplex, fiveplex, sixplex, and then bigger from there. So just because of economies of scale and the income that it generates. So Canada, like the US, there are some provinces here that are more landlord friendly and some are more tenant friendly. Just like in the US, I know California is quite stringent. Anyway, so you were asking earlier as well, before we came on live, why I looked at the US, because I ran out of provinces to invest in. So that's kind of why, because in Canada, most provinces are quite restrictive with tenant laws. If you have a tenant, especially a bad tenant that moves in, you're stuck with them for a long time. It's a very hard process. So that's why I looked at some nice American states where you can do business and make some money out of this.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about that a little bit? Like, if it, let's say a tenant stopped paying, it's, you have a lease, I'm assuming you have lease agreements that are
yes,
very similar to United States, yearly leases agreements. So they're 1 month in, they stop paying, not answering the phone. What do? You file an eviction, same type of process?
Yeah, you have to file like it depends on the province. So the province of Ontario, where I am, is one of the toughest ones. There's Quebec, that's even tougher, but Ontario, if you have to file, notify them, then they have 14 days to pay or not. Then you have to go through the process. There's the landlord and tenant board. It's like a court designed just for landlords and tenants, which shows there's a major problem. There's a whole court system. For Ontario, the population is about 15 million people. So it's not a very big province, but it is the biggest one in Canada. And there you go, and you have to file. It could be months or years before you can get the person out, even if they don't pay. So it's a really bad process, and there's no damage deposit. I mean, it's just a tough thing. Like they can trash the place, not pay, and actually sue you. So yeah, anyway, I'm not painting a nice picture of Ontario, but for that, it makes a lot of investors look at the US and other places to invest. So Canadians in general are massively investing outside of the country now.
And you own some properties in the United States. Where do you own? And I guess, why did you buy them? And what's your experience?
Yes, so far it's fairly small. I have 2 single family homes in Detroit, Michigan. And I saw a huge opportunity with Detroit, the gentrification that's happening and the laws. I mean, they are a bit tougher than some states, but It's not like Ontario. Tenants that don't pay can be evicted. It is possible. And the appreciation that's happening, the forced appreciation, is great. The other thing I liked about Detroit is, I know the exchange rate might not seem favorable, because if you look at the Canadian dollar, it's like 24%, 25% difference between the Canadian dollar and the US dollar. But a house you buy in the US at 250,000, the same in Canada would be close to $1 million. So it's a big transition, and you can command a very good rent. And you guys have Section 8, something we don't have in Canada, which is to me, it seems like a great program, and it's working well with my tenants in Michigan. And in Florida, it's vacation homes for now, but I do want to learn about multifamily in Florida.
Excellent. And can you talk to us about the process of, in Canada, is it the same process you get? I'm assuming you have mortgages on some of these properties.
Yes.
You go to your local lender, you get a mortgage. What are like the interest rate differences compared to the US? Obviously you mentioned the dollar difference, currency difference, at least right now, between the two countries. So and then is Michigan, Michigan's, I guess that's kind of close to the Canadian border. Is that a reason why?
Oh yeah, you can drive. Well, in normal times you can drive to Michigan. A lot of Canadians have family on both sides of the border there. It's very integrated. So that's one of the reasons I did like investing there. It's very close. Well, from where I am, it's like a 9-hour drive, but I am closer to New York State rather than Michigan, in Ontario where I am. But yeah, the financing is very similar in the US for multifamily. For single family homes, though, you guys have a huge advantage, or maybe it's for foreigners, but it's more the property that qualifies, which in Canada, that's commercial lending, really. It's not asset based. In Canada, you need to qualify with your income, and you're capped at probably 10 houses. That's it. You can't buy more. You have to go commercial. While being a Canadian investing in the US, you can get tons of lending. It's incredible. It's like free money. And a lot of Canadian banks are in the US. So Toronto Dominion Bank is all over America. Royal Bank of Canada is all over the US. Scotiabank and a few others. There's even Desjardins, a credit union in Florida. So again, as a Canadian, we're not starting from scratch when we go in the US. We don't have credit, but many of our lenders can find our credit in Canada. So sometimes you can play both cards. Okay, I'm Canadian buying in the US, and you get more lending. Or sometimes you say, oh no, I don't want to work with Canadian banks. And then you can start with a blank slate and get some great loans. Interest rates are much higher in your country, more around the 5% from what I've been quoted, for between 4 and 5. In Canada, we're looking more at 2 to 3%. So it does make a difference, but the cash flow in the US is much higher because acquisition costs are far lower. So it depends what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And in terms of growing and scaling, are there any LLCs that you have to set up that you could do business in the United States, or can you invest as an individual? How does that? I know there's some people talk about different, legal structures to invest in the United States from different countries. What do you use particularly?
Yeah, so for Canadians, something that's quite foreign is people suing each other. We're not used to that. It's very uncommon. If someone slips and falls, usually it goes under your insurance and you never hear about it. But I know in the US, it's a lot more common. People can sue you for many things. So what we want, you can invest as an individual. So I could go and just buy a house in my name in Florida, but then I would get sued personally as well. So if someone sues me, they have access to all my portfolio in the US, which I don't want. So we're advised to open an LLC and an LP, so limited partnership, that owns the property. So it's really distancing us from the property. And usually it's also a Canadian corporation that owns all of these US entities. So there's quite a bit of space. If you get sued, it kind of stops at the border. Nothing can happen. And for taxation, because I'm dealing with the IRS in the US and Canada Revenue Agency in Canada. So you want all those corporations to mitigate some of the income tax and liability.
Right, that makes sense. And yeah, I'm assuming you're not paying Canadian income taxes on the revenue that you receive in the US. Is that the way it works, or?
No, we do. So
You
let's
do.
say I don't know the rates, but let's say the IRS is 20% and Canada is 25. We'll pay 20% in the States and 5% in Canada. There is
That's
a
the
tax
reciprocal?
treaty. Yeah, there's just a difference. So whatever else Canada was charging, they get. So it's not double taxation. It's just as if I own the property in Canada. That's how much I would pay. Well, that's what they make us pay. But where it hurts is the capital gains. So the 1031 exchange, I can't use as a Canadian because in the States, I'll get the credit, but in Canada, they're going to charge me on capital gains that I don't really have in a way. Well, I do, but I don't in the States. So that's kind of a gray area, let's just say, where you need a solid plan if you're selling, or be willing to pay the CRA what they're owed. So,
Got it. Very interesting. So if you had to pick one country versus the other, which is the more favorable to invest in real estate, multifamily?
it's hard. That's a hard question because in Canada it's harder to get loans, but appreciation is much higher. So properties go up and up. It's kind of insane.
Do rents
While in
go
the
up too?
US, rents do go up, and depending where it is. So a lot of places rents are going up, prices as well, but so are property taxes and expenses. So you're getting an appreciating asset, which is good because inflation is eating away at income and things, buying power. In the US, I find appreciation is lower, but then the cash flow is higher. So I think you need a bit of both. It needs to be a balanced portfolio. That's why I have like vacation rentals for higher cash flow, multifamily for long-term wealth creation. It's the same in Canada. I have some cottages, so that's higher cash flow, and then long-term multifamily properties for long-term wealth building and less risky to like tourism and things. It's not affected. People need a place to live even during COVID. So
Yeah. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about the inflation in Canada. Obviously, we're seeing it in the United States, and I haven't really checked so much on what's going on in Canada. Is the inflation rate, I think right now, the reported is like 6.5%, close to 7%, and that's not even an accurate number. I think it's much higher because they left out a lot of things.
yeah.
Is it running pretty much the same course as the US, or is it running even more? And do you think it's sustainable? And like you said, if all the expenses are going up, real estate is a good hedge against it. But at some point, people aren't going to be able to afford things. So
Yeah.
where does that balance start to end up leveling off a little bit, especially if you're talking about 2 to 3% interest rates in Canada. I'm not sure what the central banks are charge, what their floor rate is or whatever. I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think the central bank is at 0.25, almost zero. It's been there for years. It is supposed to go up. We've been told it's going up 6 times in the next few months. So we'll see. But this could destroy the entire Canadian economy. So not sure they're going to do it for very little. Inflation, I think I read it's a bit lower than what you're experiencing. We're more at 4 or 5. But again, I think just like you, many things were left out. I think where it hurts the most here is actually food, which doesn't affect housing, but food is costing, I think, a Canadian family on average $1,000 more than last year, which is a huge increase. Usually newspapers write about it when it's $100 or $200 more. This year is $1,000 more. So because we're very dependent. I mean, during winter, we don't grow much fruit or vegetables here. So everything's imported. Yeah, so it is hurting the tenants and everybody. But wages are going up as well. So minimum wage has been raised in many provinces. I'm not sure if that's the case in the US, but here it has helped increase the money the tenants have to spend. And here we have a huge shortage of staffing. So unemployment is extremely low. Where I live, there's probably 5 jobs for each person. So you could work night and day. If you want to work, you're going to work. So it does affect the economy. But I think long term, it's not sustainable. Something has to happen. The government has been printing billions. And the money, I mean, the GDP hasn't gone up. So something's going to happen. So yeah, that's why I'm buying more and more real estate in different countries. So if the Canadian economy tanks, I'm a bit saved. US, I'm also investing in Costa Rica, and I'm looking at Europe right now. And diversity of currency is important as an investor.
Yeah, no, that's very unique. You know, you have a unique approach and a unique perspective because you're living in different country outside of the US, and very, very, very interesting. So how can my audience find you, learn more about you? Obviously you have your podcast. What's the best way for my audience to reach you?
Yeah, I used to have a beautiful Instagram account that was hacked. So now you can find me on LinkedIn. If you look up my name, François Lanthier, or my company, FL Homes Corporation. So it really means Lanthier family, which is because it's my wife and kids. And you can find me as well on Facebook. And I have a YouTube channel, and like you said, my podcast. So it's probably the best way. Or you can email me. It's flhomescorp@gmail.com.
Excellent. And we'll have a link to Francois's, social media accounts that he just mentioned, LinkedIn, etc., his website and his podcast on the iTunes description and also on our social media platforms as well. So feel free to reach out to him. Definitely a good resource if you're considering out of country investments and whatnot. And really excited to have him here and really appreciate his time. And if you liked what you heard and or saw today, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. It would help our message get out to a greater audience. So really appreciate that. And again, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.